Imagine yourself in the Cretaceous, as the sky shifts instantly. It didn't unfold in a single day, as many believe. A sequence of events propelled Earth into a new era. Using AI, we'll journey to that pivotal moment. See the dinosaurs' last day and the world survivors inherited. This was truly the final epoch for a world dominated by dinosaurs. It also marked the beginning of a new era, inherited by its survivors. 66 million years ago, we found ourselves at the close of the Cretaceous Period. The planet was significantly warmer, with high sea levels and numerous regions covered in dense forests and moist plains. And if you traverse from continent to continent, the wildlife varied. Yet, their sheer size was consistently impressive. In the Americas, the Triceratops boasted an enormous skull and formidable horns designed to absorb impacts. Meanwhile, an Ankylosaurus was heavily armored, featuring a club-like tail. Over in Asia, a tyrannosaur such as Tarbosaurus held the position of the dominant hunter. In Europe, then a patchwork of islands, armored dinosaurs emerged, including Struthiosaurus, well-suited to a more confined world. Even Antarctica, which at that time wasn't an icy desert, harbored dinosaurs such as the Antarctopelta, another armored species. And at the apex of the food chain stood the most renowned name, Tyrannosaurus rex, weighing between 5 and 7 metric tons, inhabiting the region we now recognize as North America. High above, various species still existed, including pterosaurs alongside early birds. In rivers and marshlands, crocodiles and turtles flourished. And far below, almost imperceptible, tiny mammals persisted on scarce resources, unaware this would ultimately become their greatest advantage. Such was the prevailing environment, a world teeming with life, characterized by imperfect yet stable ecological balances. Unbeknownst to Earth, and without any terrestrial warning, something was already drawing near from space. The celestial object destined to alter history did not originate on that particular day. It had spent millions of years journeying through space, orbiting the sun. Most likely, it was an asteroid measuring approximately 10 to 15 kilometers in diameter. In the vastness of space, this size might appear insignificant. On Earth, it resembles an entire city plummeting from the sky. At some point, its trajectory intersected with our planet's, and as it entered Earth's gravitational pull, it dramatically accelerated. Calculations vary, but a typical figure, typical for these kinds of impacts, ranges around 20 kilometers per second. That translates to approximately 72,000 kilometers per hour. Traveling at such an immense speed, one could circumnavigate the entire globe in just over half an hour. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, everyday life persisted. A Triceratops was diligently foraging for food, including tender shoots, robust leaves, and ground-level plants. Elsewhere, a group of hadrosaurs traversed a waterlogged area, leaving unmistakable deep imprints in the mud. An Ankylosaurus cautiously moved forward, safeguarded by its dense bony armor, effectively a walking strongbox. Nearby, a small feathered theropod, one of those swift hunters, significantly smaller than the colossal giants, patrolled the forest's perimeter. As the asteroid plunged into the atmosphere, the air before it rapidly compressed and superheated, becoming incandescent. This was no beautiful, fleeting shooting star. It transformed into an enormous, intensifying white orb, generated by immense atmospheric friction and compression. Its trajectory guided it to the region we now identify as the Yucatán Peninsula in modern-day Mexico, adjacent to the Gulf. And at that precise moment, the cataclysmic impact transpired. A crater of continental proportions, roughly 180 kilometers in diameter, was violently excavated. The sheer amount of energy unleashed was truly colossal. To help contextualize, estimates suggest the energy released was equivalent to approximately 100 million megatons. In simpler terms, this means billions of bombs, each comparable to the one dropped on Hiroshima. Within the initial moments, the entire immediate vicinity was utterly devastated. A powerful shockwave ripped through the atmosphere. Simultaneously, the ground propagated seismic waves, as if the planet itself had endured a direct blow. But the true catastrophe was yet to unfold. The impact didn't merely annihilate life solely at the crater site. Instead, it transformed Earth into a devastating engine of secondary effects. Both the Gulf and Atlantic regions experienced giant waves, as a colossal tsunami then propagated throughout the ocean basins, devastating coastlines thousands of kilometers distant. This was no singular, enormous wave, but rather a sequence of waves, characterized by repeated surges and retreats. Upon impact, untold tons of material, including vaporized rock, dust, and molten droplets, were violently ejected. A portion of this ejecta landed relatively close by. Another immense portion, however, ascended so high that its re-entry into the atmosphere manifested as a global deluge of extremely hot, minuscule particles. In numerous regions, this phenomenon heated the ambient air to oven-like temperatures, capable of igniting widespread infernos. The creatures of Earth, however, did not comprehend that this was an asteroid impact. They perceived signals such as abnormal light, ground vibrations, and abrupt atmospheric shifts. Yet, even with these warnings, virtually no creature had any genuine refuge. Large herbivores, for instance, relied on consuming food for many hours daily. Similarly, large predators, in turn, depended on the continued existence of those herbivores. The ecosystem was highly efficient, and consequently, it was inherently vulnerable. Following the impact, immense quantities of dust, soot, and various aerosols permeated the atmosphere. This subsequently diminished solar radiation. It didn't just cause darkness, it also brought about cooling. This is the scenario commonly referred to as an impact winter. Photosynthesis plummeted, causing plants to begin failing. And when flora begins to fail, all other life forms inevitably follow suit. This decline impacted herbivores first, then the carnivores. Ultimately, the entire ecosystem completely collapsed, primarily because its fundamental support structure was gone. This is precisely where the extinction event transitioned into a slow, yet utterly relentless, process. It wasn't a singular, instantaneous moment. Instead, it comprised weeks of insufficient light. It involved drastically altered seasons, pervasive hunger, and widespread interrupted reproduction. It meant entire ecosystems were systematically losing their very foundation. The situation in the oceans was equally dire. When plankton populations collapsed, the entire food chain's foundation crumbled. During the late Cretaceous, the seas teemed with colossal creatures. Mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, and ammonites were ubiquitous. However, following the impact, these species vanished completely, never to reappear, a clear indication of their extinction. What's truly surprising is that this asteroid impact wasn't the solitary event unfolding across the planet. Chicxulub is the name given to the colossal crater formed when the asteroid collided with Earth. However, concurrently in India, another monumental process was underway: the Deccan Traps volcanism. This involved gigantic, prolonged eruptions that released vast quantities of gases and particulate matter, capable of significantly altering the global climate. Consequently, there's ongoing debate regarding the extent to which this volcanism exacerbated or merely accompanied the subsequent events. However, the core premise remains. The Chicxulub impact serves as the definitive trigger, and the ongoing volcanism may have acted as an additional factor, complicating both the climate and recovery efforts. Intriguingly, not every dinosaur species vanished entirely. One distinct branch, the birds, successfully survived. Furthermore, alongside them, other non-dinosaurian creatures also endured, including crocodiles, turtles, amphibians, insects, and certain small mammals. So what was the underlying reason? During a global crisis, those equipped to subsist on minimal resources tend to fare better, capable of hiding, demonstrating flexible eating habits, and recovering swiftly. It wasn't necessarily that they possessed greater physical strength. Instead, they were simply better adapted to a planet that had suddenly ceased to be stable. Gradually, as time progressed, the atmospheric dust eventually settled. Sunlight slowly returned, initially faint, then progressively growing more stable. Earth didn't heal instantaneously, but life soon commenced its recolonization process. The earliest resilient plants capitalized on the newly opened terrain. Meanwhile, insects once again began to dominate the air. Avian species, experiencing reduced competition for food and greater opportunities for growth, rapidly multiplied and widely dispersed. Mammals, which had long remained small and inconspicuous, then began to diversify considerably. And over millions of years, the planet became populated with countless new forms of life. This particular detail is one that many people frequently overlook. The extinction event wasn't truly the ultimate cessation of all life. Instead, it represented a profound changing of hands. It served as a complete system reset. Initially, the basic elements re-emerged, followed by the gradual return of complexity. And even today, some 66 million years later, we continue to decipher that story within a thin stratum of sediments distributed extensively across the entire planet. The narrative it presents isn't merely one of a conclusion. It distinctly signifies the genesis of the world that subsequently emerged. This has been Max. Thank you for journeying with me into the past. To truly understand our present situation, please let us know in the comments. What city, location, or historical period would you like to rebuild? See you again in the next era.